Welcome back. We are your Colorado real estate family, and a lot of you guys have been asking us the same question: should I build a brand new home or should I move into an already established one? Well, in this video, we're going to give you 6 things that you should probably consider.
All right, let's go.
Alright, if you're new to our channel, Chelsea and Pete here, and if you're interested in moving to Colorado, Denver, or any of the surrounding cities, do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell down below. We put out 2 videos a week.
Yeah, guys, also if you are planning on moving to Colorado, looking to buy some real estate, licensed real estate agent here, helping out with all your real estate needs. We're helping out so many of you on a constant basis. We love it. We're the ones for you if you're planning on moving into the city, or I guess more specifically the state. I don't know. All right, guys, I'm actually super excited about this video because so many times when we're working with you guys moving into Colorado, that question always pops up. It's like, do I buy a new construction? Do I buy a pre-sale? How do I go about this process, and how do I, and what's better for me? And so it's great that we're going to kind of go over this video, kind of throw you some pros and cons. This is kind of a pros and cons without making a pros and cons video. We're just going to go over 6 pointers, kind of comparing the two, and kind of see what you think might be best for you if you are planning on moving in Colorado. So let's go ahead and start out with the first one. And the first one, I guess, would be that new smell or that new feel.
Yeah, the new feel. So. Yeah. Obviously, if you were buying a new build, you're going to get that, right? It's going to be your home. It's built for you. It's brand new construction. Nobody has been in it but you. It was specifically designed for you, whoever you decide to move into that beautiful home. And that's a pretty, kind of a no-brainer as far as that new smell.
Well, I think, honestly, that's, probably the biggest appeal to buying a brand new house is, hey, I don't have to live under someone else's filthiness, or I could walk in and you smell that brand new carpet, all the brand new materials, and it's just like when you buy a new car, it's like there's nothing like it, right?
Yes.
Well, if you are looking at pre-sale, there is always flips, but there's always a downside, upside to flips. I actually, back in the day, I used to flip properties, and so I know kind of, I have the eye to what to look out for in regards to looking at flip properties. You can still get that new smell, sorta-ish. I mean, of course, there's going to be previous, so yeah, it's renovated and such. But something that you really need to look out for when we are looking at these fix and flips is, did they do the project right? Did they sit there and just put lipstick on a pig, or did they actually go in and do it the right way? So
I just pictured that. Sorry.
Lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll replace my thick Sharpies with fine tip Sharpies. I'm signing autographs, not writing the Bible on a grain of rice.
I have a feeling this isn't about pen thickness.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, so that's the 2 biggest things. It's like brand new house, I walk in, it smells great. It's only me. I'm the only one who's ever been here. Older house, obviously someone else has lived in it. Am I going to have to take over whatever fixes? Say it was like a homeowner that decided to do all his own fixes based on YouTube, and then before you know it, you got some plumbing, the lines decided to break, you got a flood in your house. Just even if the homeowner just did their own fixes thinking they wanted to save $1 or $2 on a plumber.
Yeah, and I think that's the most obvious thing about this one. Obviously, in this kind of realm of this new feel, it really just comes down to how the work was done, because both of them can be great.
Yeah.
It's just, how is the work done? That with a new build, you have those contractors that are going to be managed by a general contractor and by the builder and meeting all the codes, and you just can't really guarantee that on the other side. Yeah. However, coming from a flipping background, there are people who do it the right way, and so we're not discrediting any of those people who put time and money into their home and then eventually sell it to somebody to enjoy those things that they upgraded.
And just to throw a 2 cents in there, right? So if we haven't mentioned before, if this is your first time watching us, we have investment properties out of state. The majority of those properties, actually all those properties, are fix and flips, and it's because we could go in, it's move-in ready. All we have to do to convert it into a short-term rental is just throw some furniture in it. And so we're always out there when we're looking at these flip properties to make sure that it was a good job, even if there are a few things that they cut corners on. Is it's something that we could take over after the fact. It's like, hey, this isn't really that big of a deal, maybe the ceiling wasn't painted to my liking or whatever. So that's always having a good eye. If you do not want to get into that newer house and you want to pay a little bit less and get a pre-sale, getting a fix and flip isn't always as bad as others make it seem.
Yeah, and I know that I'm kind of biased in this department, but that's really important also with your real estate agent. If you have a real estate agent that's kind of more familiar with those things, being able to eye that's super helpful. We've had a lot of people reach out to us saying, hey, we know that you used to do that, and I want to make sure I can get into a house that I can afford and that's in my price point, and I'm okay with walking into some things, but not others. So obviously just kind of evaluating the risk of that and just being aware of what is costly and what could be fixed really easily. So I think that's the big point.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. So now let's dive into number 2. And the second one kind of segues from our first one, and that's buying a new house. I'm not going to have any problems with the house.
Right. Now, we're going to break a little myth on that because, talking about problems. So looking at a new house, everyone assumes that you're not going to have any issues. But we know, especially with helping a lot of people with building new homes and being on the real estate side, there are still problems associated with new houses. Now, the good thing about that is sometimes you can catch it early on. You can do it at all the different
they have
levels.
your first year of home warranty, so you can rely on that as well too.
Well, and also through the process,
it's like
when
your
we're
bumper
helping
to bumper, right? So it's like you come in and you're like, hey, you guys messed this up, or that tile's wrong, and they pretty much fix anything for that first year. Most builders do.
Well, and during the process when you're helping a client, we oftentimes will go through, and it's like, what do we call it, like the blue tape time. So before you're actually closing and before the warranty even goes into play, there are times within the building process that you can really heavily lean on your agent to be like, help me figure out like what isn't done well and make sure that it's being fixed before even closing. So there's multiple times during that you can identify problems early on. Like tell them about like our basement or whatever, because we are now in a new build, just so you know. We are telling you these things from
both sides. We've done both.
sides.
Yeah, we've done both. Like I said, when I used back in the day when I used to fix and flip, I preferred buying an older home and then making it how we wanted it, putting the finishes and everything that we wanted into. Although you can do that on a new build, you can't customize it the same way as you could like on a pre-sale. So just something to kind of put in there. But yeah, I mean, so when our current house right now, there was a huge crack in the slab in the basement, and so we had to really push them hard. But eventually, they ended up replacing that slab, which is nice. Okay, cool. So it's like, here's a problem that might occur in the future, but we see it already starting to happen. So let's have the builder take care of that for us. Another thing that we've experienced too is like we have a neighbor in our neighborhood who they didn't hook up the dryer line right, and in the back wall mold started growing.
Inside the
We're
wall.
talking a brand new house. We're talking a house that's 1 to 2 years old, and they had to come in and rip all the drywall out. So the misconception that like, hey, I'm going to buy a brand new house and never have to worry about those problems for the next 5 to 10 years. You might still run into a few things. Another thing I really want to kind of take on this is the good thing about buying a pre-sale or an older home is it's already settled, right? So just think about it, it's already got its mileage on it. And so if you did have anything, here in Colorado we have expanding soil, so if you did ever have one of those things where the soil is expansive and stuff, you're in that area with the house that you're like, all right, cool. Obviously, it hasn't ruined this house. It's 20 years old. We can look from the foundation and everything that it's not going to ruin it much at all, as opposed to a new house. Say you got it built in one of those areas where it did have that expansive soil. 2 to 3 years down the road, you're like, holy crap. And the good thing about a lot of these builders, they usually do have like a 10-year warranty on your structural, but that's still something to kind of be concerned about. Yeah, definitely. So
we have a personal experience about that as well. So our rental house here, we had bought there, the sump pump had burst and the water got underneath the concrete slab and caused the slab in the basement to settle. Because that had happened several years before that, we were able to measure over a period of time and make sure that that was no longer moving and things like that, and any of the outside structure that had been affected in the past was not a reoccurring problem and things like that. So just being able to walk in, know kind of some of those big things that happen over time, if they're going to, they would have already, is a little bit nice to like walk into a property and be like, oh, this is what it is. Like identify if there's any cracks, make sure there's not a big issue or anything continuing to move, but most of the time it's pretty secure.
Yep. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and dive into number 3. And this one we talk about often. And I just recently helped a client out who this deterred him from buying a new build, and that is the property taxes. We've talked about this so many times, guys, is your metro tax district, right? So sometimes that could sometimes double what your annual taxes are based on whatever the developer, whatever they did in regards to the municipality bond that they pulled out. So let's say, I'm just going to throw some numbers out there because we're talking about Colorado as a whole. So all these cities, all these local municipalities are all different. But let's say typically property taxes in Colorado, you're looking at less than 1%, Denver metro area, you're looking at, right around 0.7%. If you go into a metro tax district, sometimes that could be up to like 1.4, 1.5%, and that's a huge difference when we're talking about your payment that you're making on an annual basis for your house.
Yeah, so, obviously something to just consider, because if you are, one of the things that I asked you in the beginning is, what do you feel comfortable actually paying for a house? what do you actually qualify for might be different. We talk about this in a couple of our other videos on, the home buying process. And so if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. We're going to put a link here up above. But we talk about that because we also we can factor in the Metro Tax District. So if it is like an area that you're really wanting to be in and you're like, we just need to play with numbers and factor that into the price and all of that. So it's not like an end all, but it is something like, are you willing to pay it in taxes instead of a bigger house that you'd be paying the same payment? I don't know, right?
Yep.
So it's just kind of evaluating, being prepared, being educated.
And a quick little side note, not every single new community is going to have that Metro Tax.
Right.
I'd say there's probably about 5% of them that don't pull out that bond in order to do all the infrastructure for the neighborhood. So I don't want to put that stipulation out there that just because it's a brand new neighborhood, it means it has a Metro Tax, because there are some builders out there who are doing it without having to pull out that municipality bond.
And then obviously, we talked a lot about the new builds on this, but buying in an older, buying an older house will, eliminate any of that being added on. And so, obviously you'll have a lower property tax.
All right, cool. So now we're going to hit on to number 4. And this is honestly another huge reason why people decide not to go into a new build is the timing. Mm-hmm. And the timing, what we're talking about, is the time for it to get built. Yes, there are some spec homes that might be available by a builder. Right. Prior to, I'd say, if we're looking back in May of 2022, there's no way in hell you're going to find a spec home because the market was so hot. Now that it's softening, we might see a lot more spec homes hitting the market towards something that you could close in 30 to 45 days. Nice, cool. But if you don't have that spec home, you're looking at anywhere between 9 months to 12 months build out. And it's huge. Like I said, if you have a time frame in mind, it's like, hey, I want to buy a house. I want to make sure I'm in a house within the next 3 months. That automatically puts you out of the pool, getting a house within the next 3 months.
Yeah, so this has changed quite a bit. So just to kind of give you an idea, we purchased our house, 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
New build, right? And our time frame was 6 months. Okay, so this has changed significantly over time from 3 years ago till now. And
we got supply shortages. You got, all these different things that are happening. And so,
So with that being said, if you're moving into a older house, you're not going to have any of that. We're going to deal with contingencies and things like that. But it's a lot easier to kind of be like, hey, here's the timeline that you need to put your house on the market if you have a house to put on the market. Lining up the timeline from the contingency with say a resale home, that's going to be a lot easier than having to deal with contractors and not really knowing. They have estimated closing time.
Estimated closing date or whatever, or estimated completion date.
That gets pushed. That was pushed 3 years ago with us. It was getting pushed and pushed and pushed to 6-7 months or so. I don't know what that's like now. You'll have to kind of lean into some of the new build stuff that we've been doing, but it's possible to shift. So it's hard to line that up. Yeah,
right now, just coming one of my experiences with some buyers in the area is they usually do a 9 to 12 month, time frame. So all right, cool, 9 months out, this is when we think your house can be done. But on the back end, what they're really planning for is 6 months. And the reason they do that is you have the cushion. Someone would be so much happier getting out into a house earlier instead of later, unless it came down to selling a house or something like that.
So that kind of leads us into the 5th thing, which we'll have Peter talk about, but that is interest rates. So,
and this one kind of ties in a little bit with the last thing we were talking about in regards to timing. I will say something though, that a lot of builders do promotions right now to kind of negate this a little bit, because what they're saying is, hey, I don't want to wait this entire time because interest rates are going up the way they are. At the end of it, okay, so let's just throw an example out there, right? Let's say you get in a contract on a new build right now. And they're like, all right, 12 months out is when your house is going to be completed, but you cannot lock that rate until 60 days prior to that closing date.
Right.
Who's to say that interest rates are going to be 7-8% next year? No one has a crystal ball. No one can predict that. So now what builders are kind of doing is hey, guess what? We're even the day that you sign paperwork that your house is going to be complete in 12 months, we'll lock your rate in right there. So builders are hurting a little bit because the demand isn't there as it was back in, like I said earlier, in 2022. And so they are kind of trying to do a few things to kind of trick some people into that, which is nice. There's also some other things I ran into helping some buyers buy new builds is they have almost like an insurance policy where you lock in your rate a little bit higher. You have to pay a premium for it. It's usually a couple $1,000s or a couple points. And so you lock that rate in, so then whatever the rate is down the road, if it's higher than that, then you get to use that lower rate. Unfortunate thing, if rates decide to go down, then you're in kind of a bad position. So
well, and I think this is more important now than ever because we have seen some shift in this whole interest rate. It's kind of everyone's talking about it. What is it going to look like? Things like that. Yeah. So obviously, with buying a resale home, you are able to lock into those rates right when you decide that you're going to be qualified. You lock in your rate and you're good to go. So some people, you know, especially if they're like heavily weighing these rates and it could maybe tip them out of where they want to be as far as price range, they might decide to go for, you know, a resale over a new build and secure themselves in that rate if they're kind of tipping on the high side of where they're, you know, qualified.
Exactly. All right, cool. So this is the final one, and this is actually the fun one, I think, personally. So the sixth thing that you need to kind of consider when buying new as compared to resale, I've been saying pre-sale. I don't know why I've been saying pre-sale. Just forget everything else I was saying prior to that.
Just sub in resale.
Yeah, is your neighbors, all right? And this is the most critical part to buying a home is everyone's always looking at their neighbors.
Idly ho, neighborinos.
Wait, hold on. I have to, before you go into your thing.
Okay.
Peter and I, before we got on here, he was like, your neighbors. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's good. He went so down the con, and I went so towards the pro that we're going to actually show you, like, how that panned out. Like, I'm going to talk about the pro, he's going to talk about the con, because it was hilarious. We, like, thought we were on the same page. We're like, oh, yeah. And then he said something, I was like, oh, yeah, no, oh. Well, okay, I'll talk about something else.
Okay.
So go ahead.
All right, so I guess I'll do the
You're the
con,
con of it.
supposedly.
You're the con of it, yeah.
All right, so on a resale, guys, here's the thing is I mean, for the most part, you know who your neighbors are. You could look next door and see whether or not that person's a hoarder. You could see whether the neighbor behind you has a ton of dog poop and it smells like dog poop in your backyard, right? You could already kind of do that. On a new build, you don't. You don't know who the heck's moving into you.
Know for a minute.
I'm gonna tell you, I got a story right now. A business partner I used to work with. He literally bought a brand new home after the first year of owning it. Went out to his garage to get a beverage out of the refrigerator, and there was the SWAT team in his garage because one of the neighbors. I don't know the entire story, like what's going down or nothing like that, or whatever. But they're in his garage because they were sitting there like just getting ready to go into this house and raid this house or whatever because of something that's happening at his neighbor's house. You don't know what's going to happen with the new build. I know there is a little bit of uncertainty with a resale, but at the same time, for the most part, you can look around like, all right, cool, yeah, you know, it's clean around here. That guy takes care of his lawn. That guy doesn't take care of his lawn.
He cares about the weeds. That's what he's really getting at.
Yeah.
Does that guy take care of his weeds or girl?
So it's like you don't have to predict what your neighbor is going to be like, you know? And so, or maybe you have that neighbor who just will not let you pull into your driveway without talking to you. And
Hey, Joel. Glad I caught you. How have you been?
I'm in such a hurry right now, Nathan.
Yeah.
I swear I'm not a bad person.
All right, so the pro of this. Okay, I love that when we moved into a brand new neighborhood, we weren't like moving into this established neighborhood where they already had friendships, or maybe everybody is way older than us or way younger than us or whatever. So when we moved into our neighborhood, I think we're gonna get a visitor. If you don't know us, we have two littles at home, and they are very much so in our lives in regards to recording. So we're probably just gonna pick her up here in a minute. But I love the fact that in a new neighborhood, we get to meet everybody for the first time. Everybody's new. Everyone's trying to get to know each other. I feel like it's just kind of a fresh start.
Yeah.
You know, we've really established some great friendships in our neighborhood, and I think that's such a pro. Now, you know, when you're going into an older neighborhood, they might already have had that. Maybe they were original owners, or maybe people have lived there for a very long time and they've been in that house for 30 years, and so you're in different age groups. So I like the fact that everyone's new and we all get to start fresh, and it kind of looks like that. So,
yeah, there definitely is some nice stuff to being in a new neighborhood, and everyone's building those relationships from the get-go. So I will say, yes, that is a plus, but at the same time, I was a little worried who's going to be moving in next door to me.
That's right. Well, now that we are bombarded by these beauties, we are going to call it. But those are the 6 different things that you need to consider when looking at building or buying a resale. If you have any questions, please comment down below. We do these videos for you guys.
And of course, guys, if you're looking at purchasing real estate in Colorado, we're going to throw that phone number
Can you
below.
Point to the number.
Right below.
Point to the number.
All right.
Yes.
Right there. So, oh, look, Addie's going to
Yes.
throw it down. So, if you are looking at buying a house in Colorado, give us a ring. You're going to get us and us only, no one else. So, and until next time, we love you. Bye.
Bye. The same question. Oh, sorry. I thought you were looking at me because I messed up. 6 things that you must know about both.
All right.
6. The subscribe button and the notification down below. We put out
Okay.
we put out 2 videos a week. New to our channel. Shut up. Why are you laughing at?
I feel like I'm a freaking greaser over here in this black shirt. I don't know why it's bugging me so much, but if I look like a greaser, maybe I was going for it. Just forget what I just said. No.
It's brand new. Everything is just like that fresh, you know, just uncomplicated. I don't know where I'm going with that.
I don't either.
Okay. not sure what we were supposed to talk about on this.
Pre-sale.
Resale?
Resale. Yeah, resale.
You've been saying pre-sale.
I know that's not good.
That's not right.
Resale. Just say resale. That's something to really.
That was number 5.
Oh shit.